Winter is almost here and my garden is not ready for it at all. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna get this garden ready for winter and make it so where this garden can thrive next spring as opposed to restarting or, you know, just kind of barely making it along. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do that, and it's going to be way simpler and easier than you probably think. By the way, Permaculture Q&A is back on, so if you have any permaculture related questions or just questions in general, leave them down below in the comment section with the hashtag or # Permaculture Q&A at the beginning of your question. That way I don't miss it, and we'll answer it in a future video. So let's get started. So as you can see, there's not a whole lot going on with this garden right now. There's a whole lot of clover growing, which is counting as my ground cover, and there's more to that here in a minute. But you can see that, like, this is the bed where I just harvested turnips from. This is the bed that's a perennial. I have fruit trees planted here. This is a bed where I did the cardboard mulch, and then I did some miscellaneous stuff as well as peppers. And then here's another bed that's it's gone fallow. It's completely just weeded out and everything like that. And then we got peppers over here, and then we have another perennial bed right here, and then we have a bed with some comfrey, and we have some lemon balm, some clover, stuff like that. This right here is a key to a lot of the success that this is going to have over the winter. So here's a quick little breakdown of what goes on. There's microbes in the soil. Those microbes are responsible for everything that you see growing here. They're the reason that trees exist. They're the reason that your fruit and veggies and all that type of stuff exist. The plant sends down sugars into the soil. Those sugars feed the organisms. Now, with those sugars comes a grocery list, basically. Now, the organisms, in exchange for those sugars, they have to go get what's on the grocery list. So they go over to the inorganic material in the soil, like your sand, silts, clays, rocks, anything like that, and they start excreting an acid that starts breaking those down and extract the nutrients that the tree sent, you know, in the grocery list. Now, the organism goes and gets that grocery list, brings it back to the plant, and is like, okay, brought what you need. Now, the organism, that first organism, can't make a direct transaction between that organism and the plant. That organism needs to be eaten by its predator. The predator comes along, eats that, poops it out, and then the tree or the plant or whatever it is can directly benefit. The key to that whole system is having a plant growing consistently, like this clover right here. If I can keep this growing through the winter, then I keep my organisms fed. I keep them in a state where they're multiplying as opposed to dying off in bare soil. I'm also eliminating any compaction areas. And yeah, I'm just making this soil better and better the more I have something beneficial growing. And clover is way easier to deal with than 90% of the other weeds that grow in this garden here. It's a very, this is crimson clover, so it's gonna get a little tall, but it'll stay pretty short through the colder temperatures. That's just how it goes. And we also have rain coming up in the forecast. It's been raining off and on about every other day here, or every other couple of days. But I wanna get this clover on the ground right before our next rain event, which is gonna be not tomorrow, but the next day. And yeah, so that way it'll start germinating, start growing, and start feeding my organisms and preparing them for winter. Now, ideally, you want to do this before your first snow event, or whenever you start. Like, some locations get their first snow event and then they keep snow throughout the rest of the winter. If you already have that situation, then you're kind of a little too late on the clover ground cover or anything else that you could possibly do. You kind of just have to wait at that point, wait for next winter. But if you have not gotten your permanent snow yet or your winter-long snow yet, I'll show you another option of what you can do where, like, clover won't work, basically. So stick with me and I'll show you guys that in a minute. But the first thing I'm going to do is take this clover and I'm going to hit these two beds right here first. These two beds are where I did the electroculture versus the control beds with the potatoes. Just if you don't want to go back and watch the latest video, the electroculture bed did worse than the control bed. I don't know what that means, but there's that. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and get some clover on these two beds right over here. Now, since I already have like a cover crop of clover growing over here, I'm going to set this thing on a pretty low setting. I think it's on 2 right now. Or no, it's actually, that's off. That's 1, that's 2. I'll I'll test it on 2, see how that goes. But I'm not looking to add a whole bunch more clover. In fact, I'm just trying to fill in the gaps where the clover got disturbed by the potato harvest and everything. Oh yeah, that's way too high. We'll put it on 1. Clover seeds are pretty doggone small. And then I'm also gonna spin it pretty fast so that way I can cover a wider area. Now, if I see any crazy weeds coming up, then I'll go ahead and, oh, there's a really bare spot. But if I see any crazy weeds coming up, then I'll go ahead and pull those or cut them down at the base and then try to cover that bare spot of soil with the clover. Now, this is where the heavier potato harvest occurred, so I'm gonna really try to cover this section well. And I'm looking for a basically sea of clover by the end of this. By the time everything starts germinating, I'm looking for a sea of clover. Now, you don't necessarily have to use crimson clover either. You can use whatever clover grows best in your area. Crimson clover was just very easy for me to get access to at these local farm stores, so that's what I have. But use whatever you have access to and you should be just fine. Now, on this bed right here, since the cardboard is down, if I put cardboard or if I put clover on top of the cardboard, it's not going to germinate. It doesn't have anything to grow into. So what I'm going to do in this application is going to be a little bit different, and this is something that you could do if you're in a heavy snow area, someplace that gets a lot of snow. I'm going to apply some of my homemade compost on this, and I'm just going to do a light scattering. And the purpose of this is giving my place, or giving my clover, the ability to go ahead and germinate. And then also it's going to feed the organisms, the clover is, it's going to feed the organisms that I grew in this compost. If you're not sure how to make compost, then check out one of my earlier videos on how to make compost. I do a 3-ingredient compost and I do a 2-ingredient compost. There's a bunch of different ways to make compost, but those 2 methods are extremely simplified, especially for the beginners who have never made compost before. And remember, I'm just doing a light scattering of compost, just enough for the roots to germinate. And remember, high quality compost, a little bit goes a long freaking way. Now remember, if I were to take a gram of this by volume, half of this gram would be living organisms. You would think it would just be, you know, organic material and stuff like that, but actually half of it in really good compost is living organisms, which is just like, when I found that out, it was just shocking. Like, your soil should be mostly living organisms, or at least half of it should be in really good soil. So that's what we're trying to mimic in our garden. Because if we perfect our soil, if we get our soil as good as we can get it, then that eliminates a lot of the other issues when it comes to gardening, when it comes to farming, anything. You get rid of pests because they don't have a place to either germinate, or they don't have access to the surface of your plant. You also keep a standing army of living organisms that will defend their home, the soil, or the plant. You will also eliminate disease. Disease lives in an anaerobic environment. If you view your soil as a living body, then you're good to go. Which also, okay, think of it this way. Your nitrogen-based fertilizers, your Khyber-Bosch method nitrogen-based fertilizers, that's the equivalent of the pharmaceutical companies. And now I just got this video demonetized. There's a popular saying in permaculture, and it's that nature does not like to be naked. So if you leave bare soil, nature will cover itself, or you can, you know, go ahead and cover the bare soil with a preferred species. You can either spend a ton of energy inputs on just constantly tilling and then getting a worse and worse product year after year after year, like our commercial agriculture, or you can put in a preferable seat filler, basically. Alrighty, so this bed is where things are gonna get a little bit different. This bed is really, really overgrown, as you can see. I don't remember what I had in this, but I remember not doing a whole lot of production in this bed throughout this year. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut down at a higher level so that way I don't damage my living comfrey that I just pulled out of the ground. but I don't want to damage the comfort, or not comfrey, man, I can't talk. It's been a minute since making videos and I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. For those of you that don't know, I've been doing the disaster relief with North Carolina. If you want to donate to that, I'm still going back and forth. I haven't come up with the next date yet, but it will be happening. Especially with the frost coming in, things are kind of getting worse and all the temporary fixes are kind of failing at this point. So if you want to donate to that Give, Send, Go, it'll be linked down below. If you're curious about what's going on, Tony from the Confessionals recently just did a interview with me where I kind of break it down. Also, I've done interviews with my parents over at Permapastures Farm, the Permaculture Pimpcast. Yeah, anyway, not to get distracted, but I'm out of the I'm out of the groove of making videos and stuff. But if you want to donate to that, I greatly appreciate it. People in North Carolina and Tennessee also greatly appreciate it. Also, if you need any permaculture consultations, hit up the link down below. I'm home now because I got to start making some money for the house now at this point. I've been gone for a long time and I got bills to pay. So if you need a consultation, hit up the link down below. If you want to donate, hit up the links down below, and I really appreciate it. Now, back to what I was saying. I want to keep this clover, this ground cover that's growing here. That's what I want to keep. What I want to get rid of are these weeds right here. They're higher in carbon, they're just harder to deal with. It doesn't give me easy access. They're just not the preferred weed that I want. Pick the weed that you want. And then also after you do that, then change your perspective on what a weed is, and weeds become your allies. But I'm gonna go ahead and chop these things down with the scythe. You haven't seen me with this in a while. I'm gonna chop these guys down, and then next I will show you the step that applies to everybody. And remember, I'm not using proper scythe technique because I'm wanting to cut high. I'm just kind of hacking away at these things, and yeah, that's what I'm doing. And I'm getting that side of the bed while standing over here. Oh, that's a tree. I might have to come back with the machete on that one. And then I'll come back through and get the other side of the bed on this side. Okay, so done. Now with these weeds that I just cut down, I'm going to leave them right in place. This is called chop and drop. And that's exactly what I'm doing with these weeds here. I'm just cutting them down and letting them decompose in place, and let the organisms we've been talking about, go ahead and start basically breaking them down or eating them. Now let me grab a machete for that tree over there. By the way, if you're looking for a decent machete, I would go over to Condor Knife and Tool. That's made by a bunch of expats over in El Salvador. They do have some USA stuff as well, but Condor Knife and Tool makes an awesome, awesome machete. Gerber just does not cut it anymore. And they have a bunch of different shapes, bunch of different designs. I know Link, my buddy Link, he knows who he is. He'll be seeing this. He likes the Condor Go Lock, which is a nice, like, heavy duty machete, but it also isn't like too cumbersome to swing or anything. I don't remember what this is. I don't remember the name of this one, but I really like this one too. And guess what? Their machetes actually come sharp. They don't have that stupid safety edge on them like you get on, you know, like every other machete you can buy, which is just ridiculous. Like, I'm buying a sharp object. I expect it to come sharp. For those of you wondering what tree this is a, oh, what's it called? Sweet gum tree. Sweet gum is a very prolific pioneer species over here in East Texas. At first glance, you might think it's a maple, but it's a sweet gum, which is an odd name for it because it's not really the easiest tree to deal with. It grows super fast. Splitting it is a freaking nightmare. It's like the grains are like freaking knitted together. It's not sweet at all. And I don't even think there's anything edible on it, but it does create these little gumball shaped seeds that have spikes on the outside. So maybe that's where the name is, or name comes from. But that step is done. Did the chop and drop on that bed, and now we're off to the step that applies to everybody, no matter where you are. You can do this next step and it will benefit your garden 100%. Now, speaking of my buddy Link and his son Olm, I have him to thank for this Broadfork right here. Now, before I apply the clover, the addition of the clover, I'm going to Broadfork this bed. Now, what's cool about Broadforking is that it is one of the few ways, like yeoman's plow, Broadfork, chickens, pigs, those are some of the few ways you can actually till without, or decompact without creating a compaction layer right below that. So let's say on a traditional tiller, you're tilling like 3 inches deep. That 4th inch is where you have like super compaction occur. And if you get over a certain PSI, I think it's like 350 PSI, roots can't penetrate that. At least they can't in human lifetimes. And I'm trying to have a garden next spring, so I can't be waiting human lifetimes to get past that compaction layer. So what I'm gonna do is go backwards and decompact this bed. I'm gonna try to break up and subsoil till this garden, so that way the water can penetrate deeper. My roots have access to deeper spots in the soil, deeper layers in the soil. And it's just overall a good thing to do. And if you were missing your workout or anything like that, no, you didn't. Not if you have a Broadfork. This is another way to just work out. And then once again, I'm going to hit it with a heavy dusting of this clover. Now remember, this Broadforking is something you can do even if you already have snow on the ground. I mean, it's a good way to warm up too. I mean, it's kind of cold here today and I'm sweating. So yeah, or about to sweat. But yeah, Broadforking is something you can do. And honestly, it would be a good idea to do it even if you have snow on the ground, because the area where the snow is coming in contact with the ground is going to be a slow drip. It's going to keep the water moist. Well, if you Broadfork, then you're allowing that water to penetrate even deeper. So your soil is the most efficient way to retain water in your landscape. A lot of people want to worry about earthworks and stuff like that, which is awesome, all well and good, but the most efficient way to store water on your property is via soil. And now to finish everything off, these last 2 beds over here. Now you might notice everything growing in this section. This is my pepper bed. I'm gonna try to overwinter these peppers. This is gonna be a separate video, but that's why I'm not coming through and cutting everything down and Broadforking this section over here. I'm gonna try to overwinter these peppers and see if our winter is gonna be mild enough. Based on how the winter's been going so far, I'm gonna probably say that it's not gonna be mild enough and these guys are gonna seriously die. But it's worth a shot. Alrighty, so there we go, guys. Just with a simple bag of clover over here, we got our garden ready for winter. So that way we can thrive next spring instead of struggle or try to revive or anything like that. Instead, we can just hit the ground running and get stuff growing almost immediately. So hopefully this video was helpful for you guys. And if it was, that's good. And if it wasn't, then let me know what videos you guys want to see, what videos you guys want me to make. Also, if you have any permaculture Q&A questions, leave them down below in the comment section. If you want a consultation, it's down below in the comments or in the description. And if you guys want to donate, it's in the description as well. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you next time.